let's just jump straight in because how are you, Major? Good morning. Major Jada's with us, and there's a lot to cover. I had a, if I'm a little dry voiced, it's because I sang my ass off last night, and so my vocal cords are as stretched as they get. But it was a lovely time. We finished with "We Are the Champions," and I gotta say, there are not only big notes in that song, but dulcet tones if you listen to it. It is a very delicate tune, and it's Freddie, so it was a lot of pressure, that I feel because I love it so much. But we had an awesome time. Yeah.
How many times have you watched Bohemian Rhapsody?
You know,
I, I,
it's
I love that movie, man. I mean, it's
yeah.
such a great movie.
Yeah, and it has, like if you're a Queen fan and you've been with them the whole time, in a lot of these situations, you're like, okay, they definitely took this moment from, they shuffled stuff. I'm sure the Elvis fans felt the same way about the Elvis movie, but the energy of the music was there, and that's
Oh
what's
yeah.
crucial, and the why, and them ice skating uphill against the record label to get Rhapsody on the record. There's another story from that same label executive who said the same thing about another hit that Queen put out. Another one, Bites the Dust. They thought that doesn't sound like a Queen song. It sounds like a disco song or something. And he was like, no, it doesn't belong on the record. He was trying to push for this whole thing because they believed, even back then, that the product there should be like uniformity in the product, right? And
Yeah.
a mega artist called the label on Freddie's behalf and said, this song has to be on the record. It's a hit, and if you put it on the record, it will be a hit. It was Michael Jackson.
Wow.
Michael
Wow. I will
Jackson
tell
had heard
you.
the song and said, it has to be on the record.
Yeah, all of us, we grew up and during, Queen was just one of those groups. But when
Yeah.
that movie came out and I watched it for the first time, it like brought back all those memories of those songs. And I was like downloading everything that was Queen back on my
Yeah.
phone because it was like that, kind of like it was a reminder of how awesome their music really was.
Well,
And
and
wow.
oh my God. And there are a couple of Queen songs that in the age of Trump, I am surprised have not gotten more notice. The main one being Liar, and the other one being Great King Rat. Great King Rat is such a great Queen song, and people need to go listen to it, and you'll see exactly what I mean. But it is Prince's. I mean, like Prince. It is Freddie Mercury's like anthem for Donald Trump, the Donald Trumps of the world.
Well, I think you
Great.
and I need to get this thing going then, huh?
Yeah, right. Let's do
Yeah,
a Great King
let's
Rat
do it.
music video with Donald Trump in it, with him just doing his
Let's do it.
stupid dance and whatever.
Oh
Okay,
gosh.
real quick, we were talking a little bit before about and hi chat room. Don't forget to hit the like and send it out. I'm sorry I started a little bit late today, but we are having like browser issues with the guest stuff, so we had to jump over to another software. But um, first of all, Boebert winning her primary this morning, or yesterday, whatever. And that news kind of sitting there. And what impact do you think that'll have on the fall, if it will do them any good, if she's a shoe in that district even, just your general thoughts on her. And I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene, not a surprise. It was on the margins that Boebert might lose.
Yeah. The way I look at it is I like to try to grab hope from, the amount of people that did not vote for her.
Right.
And maybe they did not vote for her because of something that she did, such as not just telling a pregnant woman when a woman said, "Hey, I'm pregnant, could you stop vaping?" She continued to vape. Then
Yes.
she started learning how to drive a stick shift during Beetlejuice. And then on her way out, she was flipping everybody the middle finger that worked on the staff for
Yeah.
calling her out.
And
To
then
me,
said
I'm
she
like,
didn't and
and then
lied
said she
about
didn't
it.
lied. Yeah,
Yeah.
when it's on camera. So,
Yeah.
I'm hoping that that's a significant amount of people that will choose to either not vote in that election or vote against her.
Yeah.
Uh, so let's hope. Now, I'll be honest with you. I was a little shocked because we kind of thought that on the Democrat side that the Marine Captain Ike McCorkle was going to pull off a victory
Right.
because polling showed that he was actually leading Lauren Boebert by 12 points. So
Yeah.
let's hope that the person who actually won on the Democratic ticket is going to absolutely beat Lauren Boebert, and let's hope we can flip that seat from red to blue. You
Yeah.
know, Lauren Boebert doesn't bring anything to the table. She's not pushing legislation.
Under the
Uh,
table, though.
yeah. There you go. But you know, these are people that they're not going to do any legislation. They're very very lazy legislators, is what they are. And
Yeah.
of course, you know, they basically go with, well, we're going to just impeach Biden again and again and again, and you get nothing. It's not going to happen. You don't have the votes for it. But you know, I just want to, you know, she needs to be removed from Congress because she does nothing. She brings nothing to the table, and we need
Right.
somebody in that seat for Colorado's District 4 that's going to work for the, you know, for the people that deal with agriculture, for the people that deal with farming, ranchers, and things like that. They need a voice, and it's not Lauren Boebert.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. She knows nothing about it. And even that, like, her restaurant shut down. This whole like gun themed part of it is this like cosplay Second Amendment BS that they're all into. It's not that they actually care about it on any measure. It's embarrassing, I guess, that they fall for it. But at this point, that's the least of it compared to the ones that are still in for Donald Trump because they think he's the one that was protecting Roe v. Wade and Joe Biden got it overturned. Like it's
Yeah,
that uninformed 17% is like the brutal stupidity of it. And again, I actually blame the news. I'm not going to say the mainstream media because that it's such a vague and useless term. But the news itself not appropriately, describing what is actually going on in the country at
yeah,
certain times when they just simply do not go, okay, this happened today because of this directly related to this. These court justices that Donald Trump put on specifically are the ones behind the, and you can see it in the draft. It's not, it's interesting that, and I think this is the biggest concern I've had about the media in general for the last couple of years, and mainstream or not. But there's this distinction, at least in, okay, news happens during the day, opinion at night. And we make this distinction between, the time of the day when it's majority opinion versus majority facts and figures. Everybody plays fast and loose with that. But my issue more than anything is that there's a fear on our side, doesn't exist on the other side, that if you are presenting something that's a fact, you're worried that people will think it's an opinion and therefore couch it in a bunch of just nested in a bunch of garbage and go or not say it at all because you're afraid that the wrong people will say you're just stating an opinion when it's just a material fact that Walt Nauta helped Trump carry boxes back and forth from that place to his office. That's on record. It's alleged that that those boxes contained classified documents and that kind of stuff.
nuclear capabilities.
Yeah, right. But the fact that that happened is on film. It's on. They videotaped it. They know it actually happened, and so our side talks about factual elements of these cases with the same deference they would to an opinion about the policy, as opposed to what the policy led to in the case of like Roe v. Wade. That part we got to shed.
Yeah, it amazes me that like they're kind of telling us what they are going to do. I mean, if you look at Project 2025,
Yeah.
and you realize that if you are a woman, you need to look at Project 2025,
Yeah.
because let me tell you something: women, black people, and people that are light brown to dark brown are going to lose your rights.
Yeah.
We're talking voting rights. We're talking, they want to take your voice away from you,
Mm-hmm.
and you need to really take the time. When we see these people in Florida that are from Cuba, that are supporting Donald Trump, they don't
Right.
realize that first and foremost, it doesn't matter that you lick Donald Trump's boots.
Mm-hmm.
If you are light brown to dark brown, make no mistake about it. If he does his roundup you're going to be in that roundup.
Right.
It's not like all of a sudden he's going to go, well, this person liked me. Donald Trump does not like people of color. Never has, never will. Donald
Well,
Trump
that's
has a
yeah.
history of doing negative things towards people of color. And if you're going to
Yeah.
not pay attention to that, if you're going to overlook the fact that Donald Trump did not like people of color working inside of Trump Tower because he felt that if white people saw black people working on the construction, that it would somehow cheapen the building. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's
that
like
right there
Charlie Kirk's
tells you,
idea. He won't fly with a
yeah,
black pilot. Like he thinks he thinks everybody's an affirmative action hire because that's the dose he's been taking this whole time. Um, there there is like I mean they've been pushing the BS that he's making moves with the black community. The black community is not a monolith, and there's been somewhere between 7 and 13% that have gone to Republicans back and forth over time, and it is always on the margins and always polling more than they actually turn out to vote, specifically the Republican ones. So the concern here, I have none. It's like the same thing with like RFK in particular, in being a spoiler for Biden. He's not. He's a spoiler for Trump, and that's
yeah.
why Trump is the one complaining about him all the time. He's
Yeah, well, I think it's funny that after a little bit of research, they find that he's not taking votes away from Biden. He's
nope.
taking votes away from Trump.
That's right.
And oh, by the way, I mean, yeah, he's got a worm, a brain eating worm in his head. Yeah,
Oh my
vote for
God.
that guy.
Right. I'm always amazed. I got to say that that campaign, I think, just by name recognition alone, just Kennedy floated to the top over Marianne Williamson and others who were
Yeah,
making a run at it. But I have never seen someone just blow every possible potential plus that they had so quickly and so soundly. And it's very much like Trump. There's a lot of overlap between Kennedy and Trump in that both of them get this kind of moment where they're like, oh, they might be ahead in this situation, and then they go and do something that just shatters it with the overall public. And that's why Donald Trump won once when he was an unknown entity and has been losing ever since. Like he skated by on name recognition in 2016, and because a bunch of faux progressives didn't vote in that election or held back, he won he lost the popular vote, but won the electoral college specifically because a bunch of our side stood down, and that's on
yeah,
us. And
yeah,
and in the case of Kennedy, he floated up on name recognition and an unknown entity. Here's an outsider, but comes from a storied family. Maybe he'll have a fresh take on things. And then Shanahan comes out, and her one issue is the elimination of IVF. That's his VP. Her one issue. That's been her driving force. He picks her right
yeah,
at the time when all the talk is literally about how even IVF is being attacked.
yeah. Yeah, I tell you, another thing is that I would have thought that before he threw his hat in the ring, he would have had a good, solid sit down with the other members of the Kennedy family,
Yeah,
because
you
this
think?
isn't just this isn't just anybody. This guy has
Yeah.
he's got legacy attached to his name,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like you throw your hat in the ring, but you didn't sit down with the people in your family first, because now they're doing commercials against you. It's like
All
Randy
of them.
Bryce. Yeah, it's like Randy Bryce. When Randy Bryce was running against Paul Ryan and he was absolutely killing it, and then
Right.
all of a sudden his own family come out after
Right.
him and said, "Oh, DUIs and all this stuff." I mean, before you throw your hat in the ring to run for any national race, you really should have a sit down with your family. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
telling you this because I've done the same thing. I've
Right.
thrown my hat in the ring a couple times too. And the last thing you want is for family members to be against you. But
Right.
if you have a reputation with your family members of being somewhat of a jackaloon, that right there is what you need to know. If that's what they feel about you now,
Right.
then just wait when they literally derail Joe Biden for Donald Trump. I mean, because that's what it looks like. To me, that's what it looked like. It looked like he was in
Right.
there to try to hurt Joe Biden, and that's what he was trying to do. And the
Yeah.
downside of it is that that wasn't the effect that it got. It
Right.
hurt Donald Trump more than it hurt Biden.
That's absolutely right. And it's fascinating to me that that people don't notice how much Trump is freaking out about RFK more than anybody else. You know, that he himself, even like his spokespeople, don't bring him up that much. They don't deal with it at all. They're 100% focused on Biden because his team has recognized just how undisciplined he is. So they're trying to they're going to pick up the slack for what an undisciplined clown he is by sticking to the talking points when they get the right talking point. Because as we saw with the Milwaukee storyline, they forgot to circle the wagons or something on this and just could not manage to get it, into like one package. And everybody scattered with their own best lie. Right?
Yeah.
He didn't say it. Well, he did say it, but he was talking about crime. He did say it, but he was talking about voting. He didn't say it. He didn't say those words, but he was saying that part of the. Actually, he did say it. Like that. That's what it ultimately came out to. And the problem with Trump is, and this is, I don't know why people don't recognize this is exactly why he's going to fail this fall. Why he's going to continue to fail in everything that he does. Because even in his mistakes, in his screw-ups, he can't allow people to believe he made a screw up. So he's got to talk up every screw up like he meant to do that. And then he can't allow other people to take credit for fixing his screw up because that means it was a screw up. Or say the screw up was a good idea and it's like other good ideas because it's got to be his own original idea. So he has to be the lone loser in the crowd. He's got to he's got to hold the trophy that I fucked up above his head. And it's it's not going to change. Look at the debate.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is it, to me, I'm waiting for the last minute for them to pull out. I think that they know, Joe Biden is I think he's going to do fine. His State of the Union addresses have been epic. I think that Joe Biden is absolutely going to eat him alive. And I think that, this whole talk of, well, they think he's on performance-enhancing drugs.
Right.
First and foremost, you know what? By all means, I don't give a shit if Biden pisses in the cup before the debate.
Right.
But make Donald Trump piss in the cup, too. And once again, I'll tell you another thing, too. Let's go back to, Donald Trump having his first face-to-face with his probation officer. Anybody else in this country that goes and meets their probation officer usually takes a urinalysis exam when they get to the office.
Right.
But Donald Trump was given a pass. And look, I'm sick and tired of this guy getting a pass. Because the thing is Donald Trump is doing all this stuff, and he keeps getting away with things. Nobody's attacking him. They're giving him every opportunity that they can for him to get out of it. And he keeps stepping in it. I look for him to cancel this debate. I really do. Because I think that they know that there's no way on earth that Donald Trump, the bumbling buffoon that he is going to actually be able to get in there and answer questions properly and be able to go back and forth with Joe Biden.
That's right.
I think that they know he can't do it, and I think that they're going to look for any way possible to get him out of it.
Yeah, I don't think he wants to do it now anyways. I think he's regretted saying this anytime, anywhere thing. And Biden said, okay, anytime, anywhere, under any circumstances, okay, I'll set the rules, no audience, we'll sit down, it'll be like 1960s presidential stuff all over again, and people will see what we're like in a leader setting, not just in a pep rally setting, which has nothing to do with governing. Yep. Weighting the audience with people that support you to cheer or applaud when they like what you say is not how the governing process works in any sense, especially when you're presented with a difficult decision or a conundrum, question in front of you, which is the closest thing to what a debate could show you about how somebody might govern. Right? You get a question sprung on you that's a difficult one. You got to explain it to the American people and talk about what your plan would be in that circumstance. Right? That's the closest thing to actual presidenting that you can do in the campaign. Right? Yeah. Maybe running a good campaign, which Trump has again not done. He runs it like a family business. He's gutting. So I'm curious whether he'll show up. I think he will, because I think not showing up would just, especially after he's been trying to work the refs for 2 weeks, will sound like cowardice. If he had said, if he had surpassed the like jacked up Joe storyline, and again, this is with them, they can't even get their stories together. They can't get together. They can't get their talking points straight on why he would or wouldn't do it, right? Or why it's going to be unfair. There's a million reasons because and it's very akin to the sort of how the Russians handle stuff. They fight on both sides of the issue, and then they just try to muck everything up with chaos, because by the time it settles, you'll sow a little bit of doubt, and that's enough for people, right? I think if he doesn't, with this storyline that he's been selling, if he doesn't show up, it will look like cowardice. And I gotta say, it's a win. This Thursday, no matter what, because if Trump,
Biden.
because Biden just has to show up and be presidential. If he stammers or something or misspeaks, it's not going to be that big a deal. He's going to be focused. If he does anything but fall asleep on the table, they've set the bar so oddly low. Or if he doesn't scream, right, and then pass out, I guess is what they're saying. Will happen. The most extremes. If he does neither of those things, which is pretty easy, Trump's in deep shit, because he's on the one hand, he was complaining about all these issues. None of them come up. Like, Biden will be presidential in it, as it were.
Yeah.
And if he's low energy, because the other thing is the strategy Trump will have. What's Trump's strategy? Which is, what if he comes in and he's oddly calm, like after the Iowa caucuses? I heard that one yesterday. I was like, okay, first of all, that's not going to happen. And the first time Biden says Jeffrey Epstein's wingman over here, and then he'll just snap, and that's that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you know that Biden knows he's going to take him off his game immediately.
Yep, absolutely.
But there's also just to me, it's what's at stake. I think you're right. I think that Biden will end up leaving this debate as the victor, no matter what. I believe that people are opening their eyes every day. I believe that every single day, more and more people are saying, "I'm done. I'm cutting ties." We know that independents are leaning towards Joe Biden. We know that over 60% of people between 18 and 28 are supporting Joe Biden. But there's a couple things that people need to always also remember here. And let me tell you, I wrote these two things down.
Sure.
First and foremost, we have heard a person in Congress say that I think we need to relook the 19th Amendment, which is what gave women the right to vote.
Yeah.
So these are the kind of things, these are the red flags that I believe are going up. The fact that somebody is talking about relooking at the 19th Amendment, which gave women the right to vote, tell me that they want to do what they can to maybe remove that right from women to vote.
Yeah.
We also know that we're hearing people talk about, let's let interracial marriage decisions be at the state level. Folks, let me tell you something. When people say they think that interracial marriage should be basically dealt with on the state level, what they're saying is we want to allow states to say no more. No more interracial. Folks, there is something that's going on, and behind the scenes, it's very sinister. They're trying to take women's rights away. They want you to be in a friggin' kitchen pregnant. They're talking about going after contraceptives. The things that these people are trying to do should scare the shit out of people. And make no mistake about it, there are ulterior motives with this stuff. The whole thing about interracial marriage being tried at the state, that is absolute sinister right there. What are they going to do? Are they going to basically say, okay, everybody, because let me tell you something. If you live in New York, you probably don't have anything to worry about.
Right.
But if you live in Louisiana, you live in Alabama, Mississippi, you live in South Carolina, you live in Kentucky, you live in Tennessee, you live in West Virginia, there is a big possibility that the leadership in those houses would be more than happy to say, yeah, we can end interracial marriage. We can go ahead and cut benefits to all those families out there that are in an interracial relationship.
Right.
Folks, this is the thing that people need to know about. They need to see this. Because let me tell you something. If you are in an interracial relationship, and there's nothing wrong with that, love always wins. But make no mistake about it, these people are going to try to take benefits from you. They're going to try to basically cancel out your marriage licenses. Let me tell you this: we have some very sinister stuff that we are facing, and people need to know that voting is important and voting matters. And if you don't get in this fight to defend women, to
Yes.
defend people of color, to defend people that are of other religions, then you're literally allowing those people to be placed in the crosshairs and hurt. And we cannot continue to allow this kind of shit to go by.
Right. Currently, and this is the part that bugs me, is that there is a lot of talk everywhere about this idea that this election is crucial because it's going to determine the direction of our democracy. Well, let me tell you something. 2016 already did, because the fight over women's rights was lost then. We can regain that territory, but it's not about an if. It is currently the law in the United States that women are second-class citizens, that they have to choose what rights they want to have by what state they want to live in or have to live in. And that's it. Men don't have to do that at all. And what they want to do is the same thing with interracial marriage, which is another way of enforcing segregation again. This is proto-segregationism. And it's been lurking around, even the voting thing. Okay, so I don't know if I wanted to say it was it must have been the mid-90s. It might have even been earlier than that. When Rush Limbaugh said on the air, the problems in America all started when women got the vote. I don't know if you recall, there was a little bit of turmoil about that. But at that point, they had less of an impact on the electorate. So people kind of shrugged off the Rush Limbaughs of the world. But that's been a running thing. The same thing with interracial marriage or the Civil Rights Act or the Voting Rights Act. All of those elements, they are against and have been against since their inception. I mean, since they came into existence. And none of that had, there was a period, it's almost like where under Bush or maybe to some degree under Reagan and Bush 1 and 2, that there was this idea that okay, that's behind us. But under the table, the Heritage Foundation and all these other right-wing groups were working behind the scenes to go, okay, they're not going to overtly do it, but we can death by 1,000 cuts to black people's rights and gay people's rights and women's rights and that kind of stuff. And we'll just have to work it this way until we get somebody in office that has supreme executive power who can just get rid of this shit with the stroke of a pen. And that's why Bill Barr has been fighting for the supreme executive power of the presidency since he joined, I guess he was working for Nixon or whoever. But under George H.W. Bush, that was his primary focus. And that's why Trump brought him back to be his head of the DOJ, because he wanted to make this happen so that he could set it up. All the laws could be set up so that Donald Trump could just zero them out. The Supreme Court will back him up and go, that's for Congress. Congress never fixes it. And the delay, which is permanent, becomes denial.
But I mean, that's the thing too, is there's so many people right now in this country that literally are in the crosshairs of a Donald Trump regime. And just like you said, I mean, for those people that are, it bothers me that you've got people from Cuba that have made it to America, and they are the first ones that are trying to shut the door behind them for anybody else. And they're going to sit here and they're going to scream how much they love Donald Trump. But look, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. You can sit and literally worship Donald Trump. If you are a person of color, make no mistake about it, Donald Trump does not respect you. And Donald Trump will have no problems rounding you up and throwing you across the border. Oh, and by the way, he ain't going to pay attention. He's not going to say, oh, you're from Cuba. He's going to say, I don't give a shit, send him to Mexico. You know? I mean, that's the type of environment that we're going to have if we continue going down this path. And it's just absolutely, it's sickening. And it bothers me that we have so many of these people that are pushing this garbage. Let me tell you something. These are people that try to act like they're tough. Paul Gosar is not tough. Andy Biggs is not tough. Josh Hawley, we saw how tough he was when he was running for people that he literally fired up. These are not manly men.
Ichabod Hawley, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's absolute garbage, man. It's garbage that these people are the ones that are pushing this shit, you know,
Hmm.
because you know I don't respect these people. You know,
Mm-mm.
Josh Hawley is about a quarter of a man, if you get my opinion about it. It just amazes me that
Yeah.
they're allowed to do the shit that they're doing and they get away with this shit. It amazes me that Republicans have been so shitty in terms of getting anything done. I mean, this is the 118th Congress is the most least productive Congress since the friggin' Great Depression. You
Right.
know, and oh, by the way, out of the 21 bills that they passed, two of those bills was renaming hospitals, and one of the bills was daggone commemorating a coin that they can hand out to people. I mean,
Right.
wow. Well, thank you, Congress, for what you've done.
Well, again, you and I talk about that like it's a bad thing, but we both know that Republicans think of that as a feature, not a bug. They believe government does too much already, and that they float around that I'm from the government and I'm here to help nonsense from Reagan, and the Grover Nordquist thing of like having a government you could drown in a bathtub. That's how small it should be. And this is that hyper libertarian, borderline sovereign citizen argument that they all seem to make, like screw the U.S. government, which is really fucking weird. But on top of how like weird it is, it benefits all of our enemies to no end. It's the statement should be they want a government so small that Vladimir Putin can drown it in a bathtub or push it out a window, I suppose. But
Yeah.
none of them like libertarians. So Trump had a bit of a tough time at the libertarian thing, which was reassuring to see. But even a quote unquote libertarian leaning Republican or anybody who believes in no regulations or freedom or all these people who call the FBI the Stasi or the Gestapo lately, what do you think a papers please law is? What do you think Trump's going to do with his mass deportation? Do you think he's going to care if you're brown and any shade of brown, that they come to your door, and if you don't have a birth certificate within arm's reach, they're not going to put you in a bus and you're going to wake up in Juarez or fucking Tijuana or something
Yeah.
like that, and like good luck getting back in, and again shut the border. So, which is also BS. It would destroy the economy of Texas in an afternoon. Think of that combination. We're gonna have a mass deportation, kick people out randomly, just pick them up if they have a Spanish accent. If they have a Mexican accent, they're gone. They're just gonna start shoving people out, and then the border is closed. And if you want to go, hey, I'm an American, prove it. You dump somebody over there that has or even has a visa, a valid visa, a student visa, a working visa, a green card, is married, all that stuff. They can grab those people, throw them over the border, and then try getting back through the quote closed border.
Yeah. Yeah. I tell you, I don't understand how Donald Trump can have the support that he's got. But I also want to think that I keep hearing about Jack Smith getting ready to indict more people.
Yeah,
I'll be honest with you. If that's going to happen, then it needs to happen, because the truth is that if Lauren Boebert gave tours the day before, and those people are about to be indicted because of the support that they gave, the enabling that they did for that
right.
took place on January the 6th. If that would have been known 2 months ago that she was going to be indicted, then maybe she wouldn't have had such a successful victory in the
Right.
election yesterday.
Right.
I mean, what are we waiting on? Why are
Mm-hmm.
we allowing these people? If Mars the Trainwreck Green is thought to have been the damn pipe bomber. And oh, by the way, people like Dr. Jack Brown, who is a body expert, says that there is an awful lot of similarities between those two people.
Yeah.
My thing is if I guarantee you somebody knew about this. Somebody knows exactly who the pipe bomber was, and Jack Smith probably knows that. And my
Mm-hmm.
thing is why are we allowing these people to run for election if we know that they've committed these crimes? We
Mm-hmm.
know that Louis Gohmert, Paul Gosar, Andy Biggs, Matt Gaetz, Jim, we know those people gave tours to our Capitol the day before. They had never given tours for themselves. They had never
Right.
themselves ever
Right.
walked anybody down any daggone areas. But the day before, let me tell you something. The majority of members of Congress, and I'll say all of them, have at least one person on their staff that is really there just to make sure that whenever constituents come from
Yeah.
your state to visit their member of Congress, that person gives them the tour, takes them
Right.
through all the
You don't have to
areas,
do it yourself. Right.
gives them the history of these paintings and all that stuff. But the day before January the 6th, it wasn't the aides.
They all did it in person.
They did it in person because they wanted to make sure that they conveyed exactly. All right, you got it, right? That's Pelosi's office. You got it, right? We're good? All right, good. Let's move on. That's AOC's office.
Right.
That's the kind of shit that they did.
This
And
door opens it out onto the mall. This
That's right.
office is the one that has a window in there, and you notice it's funny in that they don't put the cameras in the rotunda because they think it doesn't look good or something like that because they figure it's got news cameras in there all the time and it won't on that day, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we got photographs of those people the stairwells and stuff like that. I mean, to me, I'm like, come on, Jack, come on, man, I got it. And don't get me wrong, I'm glad that you're bringing the heat, man. But let's get all these assholes.
Would you think there's an element of it was such a large coordinated attack that it overwhelmed our ability to kind of process it because they'll offer this they're attacking MAGA and they're attacking the conservatives and they just don't like America First conservatives when all of the quote-unquote America First conservatives were in on a plot to install Donald Trump as a dictator, which is not America First, by the way, because America is defined by our Constitution, not our geography or our GDP.
It's Trump first.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So America First means Trump first. And I've said that Biden should say American First policy matters. American jobs, American businesses, not just it's not just that somebody brings a factory over here and just plants it someplace. It's got to benefit it's got to be a decent wage. It's got to be safe for the environment. It's got to be good for the country. We're not just interested in being a dumping ground for multinationals. So I'm American first.
People.
Yes.
For the American people.
That's right.
That's good. And it's amazing how adding that "in" on the end actually highlights for the people. I like it.
Yeah. Well, and also, I would say that arguably when Trump talks about America being America first, what he means is putting it on the chopping block first. That's the first thing he offers up is what piece of America do you want? I will give it to you if you'll help me build, Trump Tower Dubai or cover my loans. Did you see? Oh, I have to talk to you about this. The new pictures that came out of the boxes that Trump had, right? That they showed in there. I don't know if you saw them.
I saw some pictures. Yeah.
Yeah. The couple of them were spilled, but one of them in particular, I was like, I can't believe people are kind of glossing over this. But on the top of the box, after you took the top off, there was a New Yorker article about a Deutsche Bank whistleblower who'd been killed. And it was the top thing on the box. Like in the box of stuff, it's the last thing Trump put in or whoever put in on top of whatever was in there, which contained classified documents and other stuff. But it wasn't an article about Trump. He wasn't, I'm sure he was maybe mentioned in it or whatever because of his Deutsche Bank loans. But the fact that he had this guy's basically obituary like a trophy in one of these boxes is so friggin' telling. And for those that don't know, this is how the Deutsche Bank system worked. Russian oligarchs want to get their money out of Russia or shuffle it away when they're stealing it from the Russian people, including Vladimir Putin, whose net worth is $200 billion, but his salary is $140,000 a year. That should be a little hinky for some people. To get rid of that money, you need to launder it. One of the ways you do it is you give it as loans to companies and other people that will never be repaid. That's basically your stuff. You buy stuff in my stead. That building is mine, but it has your name on it. And if you try to screw me, I'll snuff you. But basically, you get to live there, and I cover all the loans on it, and you get to have this thing. In the case of Trump Tower and all the concrete and the mobbed up, construction over that place, and any of his other places, his loans were backfilled by Deutsche Bank. That's Russian money, and Deutsche Bank doesn't. It was like everybody's like they overlooked all of his financial statements and gave him loans he didn't qualify for. Well, it wasn't their money. it was Russian money, and the Russians said, give it to this person, I'm cool if they don't do it. And you guys get the percentage on the loan. You guys get to keep the interest on it. That's what they were doing. That's what they got busted doing. Like the Saudis, the Iranians, some Chinese super rich people, they would take this money. I got $3 billion. I don't want it in my country because it sucks. I want it in America. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find a sock puppet who will buy me a building there, or, in real estate, let it appreciate and all this stuff. And they'll sit on it, and I'll pay them a little stipend, and I'll do it better than having my money absconded with or stolen, or I get killed and it's gone. And then they give it to Deutsche Bank, and Deutsche Bank loans it out to that person that they direct them to. They go, give that loan to that person, and they do it. And you guys keep the interest. I'll keep the principal. They'll build what I want to build or have over there. They'll buy boats and houses and that kind of stuff under an LLC. And the laws in America around real estate and LLCs are as opaque as they come. And it's one of the reasons why Donald Trump, of all the industry heads we have in this country, tech billionaires, chemical companies, pharmaceutical billionaires, who was the one who actually made it to the presidency? A real estate billionaire.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, that's crazy, but
because that's who they could control. Because you could, if somebody owns an oil well with H.W. Bush, right? The Bushes had oil, right?
Yeah.
If they co-owned it with a Saudi prince, you'd have to know, because there's all sorts of laws around energy. Real estate, it's just a fog everywhere you look.
Wow. I mean, to me, that's it. Nothing surprises me when it's with these people. And talking about the classified documents, let me tell you, if you are caught with one page of a classified document that you snuck out of a skiff, you're going to go to prison for a minimum of 5 years. Understand that those boxes each box probably has hundreds of different documents in there. They're all classified, and once again, like you said, you can tell Donald Trump was thumbing through things. And of course, the last thing that he was looking at was probably, this guy's dead now. I mean, that's the type of person that he is. If you think that it's okay that even a president of the United States is cavalier about our classified documents, it should bother you. The president of the United States may have the ability to look at classified documents, but he doesn't have the ability to steal classified documents.
Right.
He doesn't have the ability to tell people that don't have the security clearances to move classified documents. The way the documents got from Mar-a-Lago from the White House to Mar-a-Lago in itself was a crime, because once again, they stole those boxes.
Right.
Those boxes were not classified documents. Are almost as if like you're looking at those Brinks trucks that drive the money around to the banks. I mean, we're talking that type of security when you're transporting classified documents. We're talking about, there are people out there that are in vehicles that are driving things around our country that if you even try to stop that vehicle, there will be people that will hop out because there's cars all around them, and they will shoot you without question.
Right.
Because of the level of severity that we are dealing with. And the fact that Donald Trump was this cavalier about our nation's secrets. Folks, also understand that we know that Donald Trump asked for the information concerning all of the people that basically were working for us undercover in all these different countries. And shortly after Donald Trump received that information, all of a sudden, lo and behold, we had a uptick in people being captured and people being killed. And do you think that was a coincidence? Look, I'm going to tell you right now, I think that when all this is done, when the classified documents is over with and we're done with Donald Trump, we don't have to worry about him ever again. We are going to find out without a shadow of a doubt that he sold our classified documents to Saudi Arabia, to friggin' to Russia. At the end of the day, if you think that Donald Trump wouldn't sell your soul for a friggin' dollar to go into his bank account, then you haven't been paying attention to Donald Trump.
Okay, I've always been struck by the fact that, one of the big stories was his secret bank account and I've mentioned it a bunch of times because I don't know why it went sideways. It should be a constant talking point. He had this Chinese bank account for one of his like hotel and hospitality chains that never had more than $700,000 in it and was usually used to pay taxes in China, apparently, which he paid more taxes there than he paid here, but that's another conversation for another time. And in that account, right after he kills the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which a lot of people were in, like, even eventually, Hillary Clinton was, came around to like being against, which I think is a mistake because of people's anti-NAFTA feeling, which is really what drove it. Like, oh, trade deals are bad, therefore. And a border one versus one that countries that are close to you is very different than ones that are overseas. You have to have these bigger trade deals, especially when it comes to multiple countries in an area overseas. But anyways, there was a kind of crucial aspect of this that he kills the Trans-Pacific Partnership, and then it's like within 2 months, $17 million shows up in this account. And he, while he's president in 2017, takes $15 million of it out in cash. Just cashes that account out. Leaves $2 million in it for a while, apparently. And maybe they take it back or it goes someplace else. We never knew. I never found out whatever happened to the other $2 million. But $50 million he takes out in cash. And there's two problems with that. One is, it's bad enough that he's making money like that on the deal, and it's hinky as hell, right? It's sketchy that that's happening. But it's also weird that he would even have to. If you're a billionaire, what is $15 million to you? Even if you want it, couldn't you wait till you're no longer president anymore? You can't wait 4 years for if you are allegedly worth somewhere between $3 to $9 billion, according to this, right? That's the story.
Yeah.
Really? And you can't let $15 million sit in an account. You're like, oh, get that. You got to snatch that up. That says to me that that alone, that single act to me said, this dude is broke on a scale I don't even think people recognize. That it's desperate. If it wasn't for the Secret Service showing up at all his properties, a bunch of them would have gone into the red and gone into probate while he was president.
I mean, and to me, I look and I think to myself that, when you're talking about greed as well, it's like it doesn't matter, man. I mean, they cannot quench their thirst.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Donald Trump would take money out of a friggin' toddler's hand because at the end of the day, it's for he who dies with the most toys wins.
Right.
That's the thing that drives me up a wall is that what we see here is that it doesn't matter. We cannot quench the taste of these filthy rich people.
I got to say is kind of lucky. I'll tell you why. And this, I'm a silver linings kind of a guy. I'm very optimistic and stuff. And like I said, one of the reasons why we're safe from nuclear annihilation from the Russians is because they're not run by communist idealists like the Stalinists of the world. They're run by hedonistic rich guys who want, hookers and boats and all that kind of stuff. They want to live to be scumbags for a long, long time. They're not really willing to. They don't have a cause they're going to die for, and it's very different. The same thing is true, I think, about like Trump. Did he have a big financial haul, him and the RNC? Well, yeah. But the RNC used to be a separate organization. But now with Laura Trump installed, he's got access to all that money. It's gone. They're not buying ads. They're not using that for anything functional in a campaign. It's gone. Maybe it'll pay for lawyers or something or backfill Truth sinkhole.
Eugene Carroll.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And to me, honestly, I'm like, when they said, oh, they're going to put Laura Trump in charge of the RNC, look, at the end of the day, if the RNC if they're taking every dime, and they are, all the money, basically, until Donald Trump, until his legal fees and everything is paid for, then nothing goes to anybody else. And the way I look at that is the RNC, one of the things that the RNC and the DNC are focused on is down ballot candidates, is the fact of being able to take back the House, to increase the lead you have in the Senate, to put secretaries of states that are, in these state houses, to put governors in the state houses, It goes all the way down to county commissions and boards of education. And what they're doing is they are literally starving the Republican candidates
Yeah.
for anything to be able to help. So, and oh, by the way, understand that Democrats raise money on small dollar donors. Republicans don't. That's why Republicans are such big bootlickers to the NRA and these other big corporations, is because that's where they get their money. When I ran for Congress in 2018 in West Virginia, Southern West Virginia, I raised $3 million. And it was all small dollar donations. That's what it was. My opponent, Carol Miller, basically raised $3,000 of small dollar donations. When she would go sing at the choirs and all the different churches in the area, then people would drop some quarters and stuff in a bucket. But the thing is they don't get their money from daggone, from the people. And right now, all the money that gets funneled into the RNC, all that's going, and it's going for E. Jean Carroll, it's going for lawyers, it's going in Donald Trump's pockets, and these Republicans are going to have a rough time come this election.
I agree. I mean, and you can see it, and that might point to why Boebert and Green and some of those others are doing well in these, in their primaries and actually making it, because they've got all the free publicity because of their name recognition, and they're just being garbage essentially, and drawing a lot of attention, because they're certainly not getting ad dollars. They're certainly not getting the kind of financial support you would expect in a major campaign.
Yeah.
Because Donald Trump is effectively snorting it all up to pay, his legal bills. He's going to use the other thing is, and I think this is the biggest story of this illusion that they caught up on funding, beyond the fact that he's not going to spend it, it's not going to go where it's supposed to go, and Laura Trump's going to make sure of that. But he made the numbers I saw, they put them right next to each other. Biden pulling in $85 million, and Trump pulled in $141 million. And they're like, oh my God, this is taking our lead, and blah, blah. Okay, first of all, $100 million of that was from one person. One mega donor giving money to, the max to the Trump campaign, and then to his super PAC, and then to the RNC in one big chunk, right? That was they just wrote in to do this. Which means, if you remove that, Trump brought in his allegedly biggest fundraising haul month, half of what Joe Biden brought in.
Yeah.
Because even that person, one vote. Does money buy elections anymore? No. Not the way it used to buy when the airwaves were so singular.
And all that did was go to pad Donald Trump's pocket.
Right.
I mean, at the end of the day, that's money that Donald Trump gets to spend so that he don't dig into his own bank account. And once again, Donald Trump is more than happy to take your money, Cletus. He needs you to put together your money with your next door neighbor, Billy Bob, and he needs you to send them to him as soon as possible.
I agree.
I mean, and
why
it's embarrassing.
Why don't I don't even know why maggots have any money left. They, at this point, if you have a penny left in your pocket, do you even MAGA? I don't understand, because you have every opportunity to dump your money into this man's pockets. None of it ends up being campaign funds, and he gets to just shore up his policies and his properties with zero policies. And if you got any money left, there's the Trump meme coin. You can buy that. If you're not walking around in a pair of the shoes, if you don't have a bunch of his NFTs of him with his head on Rambo's body or some crap like that. And if he still has any outstanding legal fees or outstanding fines, are you even helping him? First of all, you should send him a check like a TV preacher in the mid-'70s. Just mail him all your money. Just do it. Write a paper check, you lunatic.
And these are also the people that at one time were all about made in America. We only want something made in America. And every damn thing they got, from the hat on their head to the shoes on their feet, is made in China. The stupid Trump rag that flies over their friggin' home that's falling apart and living in squalor, that's made in China. And instead of you spending the money on that, maybe you could have done something to better your life. But instead, you're literally allowing yourself to stay in poverty so that you can elevate a man that would never give two shits for you.
Right.
Donald Trump doesn't give a shit about poor people. Donald Trump put $7.8 trillion on the backs of the working class citizens. And we
Yeah.
already know that Donald Trump has already told those very people that he's going to give them even more the next time. Folks, let me tell you something. If you are middle class, if you work and you don't realize that literally you're going to have to pay for this. We're going to have to pay for this. Joe
Right.
Biden is doing everything in his power to reduce the deficit. It's going to take years. But right now, these are people, you're not going to benefit. Donald Trump is not running for you. He wants your money. But Donald Trump don't give a shit about you. And at the end of the day, that's where we're at. And people need to wake their asses up. It's embarrassing that these people are sending what little money they have to this guy when this guy doesn't give two shits about them, never has and never will.
Yeah. And do you think part of them are having a hard time backing out of being Trump supporters because it's so embarrassing? And to say you were taken by such a con man that you have to keep, at least telling people you believe it because you look like such an asshole.
Look at these pastors. Look at all these religious people out there.
Right.
These pastors that literally were talking about God came to me last night and told me without a doubt Donald Trump would be the next, and he lost. And then they have to go back and they've got to try to figure out how technically for some odd reason when I was talking directly to Jesus, somebody must have beeped in. I don't know. I didn't get it all right. But I mean, at the end of the day, what do these people do? They've been literally saying that Donald Trump was sent by God to be the next Christ, and then look at what he's doing. Look at the things that he says. Look at his actions. Look at the hatred that he spews. The guy is a bumbling buffoon, and there are people out there that I believe are sticking with Donald Trump because they have no other options. Because by not sticking with him, they have to say, well, technically, maybe it wasn't God that I was talking to. Maybe it was my next door neighbor who we live in a house.
It was a party line, and Satan himself was on there. I had no idea. Himself. It was a 5-way call. At some point, I was Zooming with the Lord, and Satan got the link, and we don't know how, but he jumped in there and screwed my whole PowerPoint and throw my math off. And I've seen, obviously the Flashpoint and the Kenneth Copeland's network is all in on Trump, and Kenneth Copeland is the guy behind Flashpoint, and it should be no surprise the dude who had that wig out with that reporter about why he needs two G5s, two airplanes, when he's you could see him kind of snap at her. It's no surprise that guy is a Trumper.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. At the end of the day, religion has become a racket. And I hate to say it. I believe it or not, I used to, when I got out of the army.
Evangelical Christianity has become a racket, no question.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is. Yeah. It's the sales floor. Because that's what evangelizing is. What is it? It's the Amway of Jesus. It's a pyramid scheme version of Christianity.
When they did the philosophy seed, that's what happened. They destroyed religion in this country. When they were able to say, well, guess what, folks? If the pastor drives a Mercedes Benz, that means that God loves him more. And I'll tell you, that's one of the reasons why I don't belong in church. Because I used to go to church for 2 solid years. And every single day during the church, they would stop and people would start speaking in tongues. Shaka Khan, Mama Say, Mama Kusa, all that shit. And then one day I walk out of the church. I'm standing there in the parking lot. I'm looking at all these cars, and there are a bunch of bald tires. Remember, this is southern West Virginia.
Yeah.
People are poor. And then all of a sudden I get this beep because I'm standing in the way of the pastor's Mercedes. And he goes by, and then behind him is his wife and her master and her equal Mercedes Benz.
Right.
And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, every single daggone church service, we stop in the middle, and not only do we do a plate, everybody passes the plate, but then something comes up and we got to pass it again. It's a racket, and these people have literally, and I listen to these people talk about the seed philosophy, about how, as long as, we do well, we dress well, we eat well, we ride well, because that because we are in God's favor.
The Lord has blessed us. Yeah.
Yeah. The truth is you just keep nickel and diming people. We want to take a collection.
It adds up.
We want to take a collection for the women's home locally. Everybody, and you got 300 people in there. People are writing checks, dropping 20s, 50s in a hat. And oh, by the way, we're going to give $1,000 to the women's center. You raised about 20 grand, but
right.
you're going to give 1,000. Yeah, get out of here.
That's exactly it. Well, obviously we've seen stories over the years of, and Phil will be on for everybody. Phil will be on in a minute or whatever. Just gonna, I know that the Major and I are, I'm holding him over, but I appreciate him being patient with this. But first of all, the building fund was I think the big grab. If anybody who goes to church in the South, especially, we need the building fund because we got an old church and we need to add on to it. And we need to expand for our heavenly family and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, I don't know, the population of this church been the exact same. It sounds like you want to skim about 20% off the construction costs, or your brother runs a construction company and you just want to put a wing on the church that will remain empty except for like a holiday program or something like that. That's another part of it. But you have the Robert Tiltons of the world and the Kenneth Copelands and the Jim Bakkers and whatever, and myriads of stories where somebody shows up at one of their places, looks in the dumpster, and inside are envelopes with prayer requests, and the check was just taken out. They didn't even look. Yeah. They didn't. Yeah. And if there's one thing where somebody's like, here's for the church, I want to support the church, and I have a prayer request or whatever, and they act on that, I don't necessarily have a problem with that because nothing's free, and you got to hire janitors and whatever. You got to do stuff. That's okay, and everybody's got to eat, whatever. But the idea that you would not even bother to read the prayer request from these blue-haired old ladies that are sending you, outsized amounts of their retirement stuff,
their money,
and then just throw it away is indicative of exactly who you're talking about. And that's why, those people are total Trumpies. They all support him. All those folks definitely support Trump. And they have to, even if they know he's sketchy and gross, even if they were not themselves, I guess Epstein-adjacent people themselves, they have to support him because if they call BS on what he's doing, if they preach against him, they're preaching against themselves.
Yeah. They tell you to send your money to the Lord, but they give you their address.
Yeah, right. That's right.
Yeah,
it's an amazing thing. I appreciate you being on the show. I'm going to try and see if I can figure out how to get Phil on the show, but I appreciate you being here, brother. I want to remind everybody, turnleftpack.org. Please sign up, support, get yourself some Jackaloon merch to wear for
Let me also say, if you know anybody that's ever served in the military, it's called va.org. You can go on there. You can create yourself a profile. What we're trying to do is we're trying to create an opportunity where veterans have a place where they can go and they can even find other veterans that are logged, that are signed up as well, and maybe reconnect after all these years. It's also about trying to use AI where we can help people to be able to put together their VA claims. So that's a big deal. And then also I go live every night at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time on OJEDA Live on YouTube and Facebook. Brother, fantastic. I always appreciate you, man. Every time I come on your show, I leave with more knowledge, and I appreciate you, brother.
And when you're on, I leave with even more passion, and everybody spots it in the chat room, and I love you for it, brother. Thank you so much.
I love all you guys. Y'all be good. I'll see y'all next week.
All right, we'll see you. Cheers. Okay, there we go. Back to here. Whoops. I've got a thing on my face, and I'll try to fix that. Hi, everybody. I'm going to see if Phil is having issues. We obviously know that there are issues with both power and internet put this out of the way, in Ukraine right now, obviously. So I just want to, see if we can. I'm trying to get him in here. Any word? We shall see. I'll check in on him in a moment. We always get, cause it's Phil, and where he is. I always get nervous about where he is. Okay, cool. We shall see what we shall see. Let's see. There we go. I'm asking him now. Good. So we'll wait for him. Meanwhile, hi chat room. I'm gonna see if I can. I think this will might work. Yes. 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 1 second. Checking something to see if I can get him in here. Try this, and there you go. Put that in there, and then I'll put you guys up. There we go. Whoops, sorry. Cancel. There we go. Back to live mode. We'll go to this guy and pop. What you guys are in there? Bing. Where'd you go? Oh, this is it. Sorry. Hey, there's the chat room. It's a little hard to read. I apologize. It should be bigger than that, but I thought I'd bring you guys in for a second while we did this. The sticky Bible pages in terms of Trump. What that was about is that when Bibles are cheaply printed, the ink doesn't dry on the pages before they're bound. Oh, I think we've got him. Hold on. Yep. Okay, give me 1 second. And I will bring Phil in. There he is. He's popping in. Excellent. Okay, give me 1 second. And I will bring him in here. Dink, real quick. And there we go. And I'm going to add him on the right. And then, hi, Phil. I think you can hear me okay. Can you? Yes? Okay, and I don't hear you, though. So, I do not hear your audio. Working on it. Phil's in the background. We will have him up in just a moment, chat room. Working on it. Everything, it says audio's coming this way. According to the, yeah, I don't see it coming in on my end. Pardon me. Let's see. Let me try to. Let's see. How about this? Let's try this. Hold on. We'll just bring you in and see if we can solve it on the air. And check one. You check for me, Phil?
Check.
There you are.
Can you hear me?
Got it. Yep.
Yep. Check.
All good. Excellent. Hi. There you are.
And
Hi,
you can
brother.
see-
Yep. Everything's good. Good to see
Hey.
you. How goes it? Is the power out?
Good.
Or
Good.
is it just daytime so you don't have lights around Olga?
Yep. Power is out.
That's what I thought.
Nope. Power is out. We're down to about 12 hours on, 12 hours off in roughly 3-hour increments. So
Right.
it sucks. It really sucks.
Agreed.
It's exhausting. You can't. You can kind of make plans, but because there's an app which will tell you kind of when roughly the power's going to go out, but you got to be start I mean, these sound like small things, but they add up. So you can't do a load of laundry. You can't do
Right.
my stove runs off electric, so you can't cook for 3 hours. I've got butane on my stove top, so I can do it's not, and and it could be worse. I mean, out east they're getting shelled, so but it's exhausting, and I see it affecting my Ukrainian friends. Everybody kind of has a malaise. It's, you remember the days of COVID, or right after 9/11. There's an unspoken thing with every human interaction where it's kind of like, how you holding up, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Which goes, it's mostly nonverbal, or it's on very slight cues. Like how are you?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So it's meant to do this. It's meant to demoralize. It's not going to work. because there is a community here, and there is a sense of, well, we know who's causing this. It's not like we're angry at the government for them not. They're doing the best they can. The civil engineers are doing the best they can. It's the Russians. They're the ones to blame, and so there's not a lot. It's not going to break the spirit of people here because it's the blitz spirit. It's the exact opposite. It's, well, go fuck yourself. You think you can break us? I mean, this sucks. Yeah, it sucks, but we're willing to endure it because we know what you guys are doing. We know who's to blame for our predicament, and we see how much you don't give a damn about us, and that you're willing to put an entire population through this kind of misery. You have nothing. You don't have any good intent.
Yeah.
So, but it does then circle back to, it just fucking sucks. Yeah. Shops will be closed because you don't know. You can check your house. You can check, like, I have the studio now, so I can schedule interviews at the studio. It's like, well, I'll check my rota. I think we can do it in that hour, so come on over, sort of thing. But you're not gonna check every address of every place that you're possibly gonna go to. So say you want to go shopping, you want to go pick up this evening's meals, or you've got to go get, or even more desperately, you have to go get medicine or something. You can run into a shop that you use every day that's your old reliable, and it's unexpectedly closed because no power. And they have generators, yes, but those can get expensive.
And they can also be just for like super emergencies for the
situation.
A couple of things I do want to talk about with you right away is your insight on what happened in Dagestan and the attack on the police officers there. I don't know if you saw
the
any of that
attack.
Yeah, and this pushback on Wahhabism that's now the sort of xenophobic thing there is kind of cryptic because the information's hard to come by. So let's get to that one first, if you feel like it's something
Dagestan,
you can address.
I've been to Makhachkala years and years ago. It was their staging area for the second war in Chechnya. And they have a whole section of the Russian Federation that bumps up against what used to be the Ottoman Empire or the Persian Empire. And so there's this little collection of 3 countries on an isthmus, but then there are all these other little republics that were conquered by the Russians in the 19th century that have always been, how do I put it? They're unruly. Not unruly. They don't like being under Russian rule.
Right.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Resistant to colonization.
Crazy.
It's why we crazy, huh? It's why we saw the war in Chechnya. Chechnya is the largest of these kind of republics. You have Georgia in there, which is a Christian country. You have Armenia, of course, which is Turkic and Christian, and then you have Azerbaijan, which is Turkic and Muslim predominantly. Then you have the Ossetians, the Abkhazians, the Dagestanis. There's a whole bunch, and it's this hilly kind. It also contributes to what contributes to this is also it's a very hilly region, and they have that kind of mountain hill people mentality of like, don't step to us. We're up here on these hills because we don't want you lowlanders coming and messing with us. You see it in Scotland. You see it in the Pyrenees with
Appalachia.
Some groups in there. I mean, obviously in the States. I was just about to say, obviously in the States we have Appalachia and the holler. Don't come down the holler way. That's
right.
We take care of our own sort of mentality.
But it's a whole country of that.
And that's very and there's a whole bunch of that in what is called Russia's soft Caucasus underbelly, and it's not a surprise that
Putin has a soft
the
caucus.
People in that region are taking that the populations there would take advantage of the fact that they're absolutely throwing everything they have at the war in Ukraine, which weakens their security in that area. So, of course, the Dagestanis. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Abkhazians or Ossetians joining in. If Kadyrov wasn't in Chechnya, and Kadyrov is kind of Putin's strongman puppet there,
Right.
if Kadyrov wasn't in Chechnya, I would expect an uprising out of Chechnya tomorrow. But because Kadyrov is such a monster, and he's killed everybody who would even say boo, we may not see it in Chechnya, but we could. Dagestanis. You remember at the beginning of this war, Hal, there was that incident where they put a bunch of Z's on the side of sheep and ran them through the town. That was Makhachkala.
Okay.
And all the Russians who were like, yeah, Z. But in reality, what the Dagestanis were saying is, you Russians are sheep and you're being led
for
to
following
slaughter.
that Z business. Right.
Yeah, exactly. So there is a mentality in Dagestan that rejects Moscow. And so the attack at the nightclub, this attack in Makhachkala, killing all the police soldiers, nobody should be surprised by this, and it's going to happen again.
Yeah.
It's going to happen again. There's going to be some other attack. Now the Russians will probably try and pin it on the Ukrainians, but
Yeah, or try to. They seem like they're trying to pin it on just immigration at large, to try and use it as a like a common threat bond between them and what would be the right wingers in the EU.
Yeah.
Right. That, like, hey, we're under attack from these Muslims that are coming up here, that are different from our Muslims, and they want to take over the place, and therefore we're all in the same boat. It's not even about it's not that your leaders are bad. It's that they don't realize the threat that's coming, and we do, and so better to have a tough guy who can put this stuff down when it happens. That kind of idea. The death toll from this attack was on churches and synagogues is at 20, and it was apparently a coordinated attack. Gunmen with automatic weapons burst into an Orthodox church and a synagogue in the ancient city of Derbent on Sunday evening, setting fire to an icon in the church, killing a 66-year-old Orthodox priest, Nikolai Koletnikov. And then in Makhachkala.
Makhachkala.
Yeah. North on the Caspian seashore, attackers shot at traffic police and post and attacked a church. And then there were big gunfights. There's tons of footage of it online because it was, fairly well documented by both sides. Obviously the people who are doing it want the credit for it. And after the ISIS attack in Russia, nobody's taking any chances. They're filming their own stuff and then they're putting it up so that the Russians can't blame the Ukrainians and take the credit away from the people who actually attacked it, because that's what the issue was. I mean, did that go away quick? The theater murders in Russia, just like, well, I guess we're done with that, and they moved on.
Yeah. Well, they desperately tried to pin that one on Ukrainians, and it didn't work. I'm not surprised. I mean, they're very racist about people from this region. The Russians are. They're also really racist against people out. Even there's another region, which I wouldn't be terribly surprised if we start seeing attacks on Russian interests in, like, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan.
Right.
That part of the area, there's an Islamic movement, the IMU, the Islamic movement of Uzbekistan.
Yeah.
And they live. There's a place called the Fergana Valley, which runs through, I think, 3 or 4 different Central Asian countries, and they've always been hotbed areas for insurgents because they can go back into the canyon, into the kind of the valley, and hide away. I wouldn't be surprised if that flares up.
Right.
It's not, and also, by the way, this is a topic we do discuss in next Sunday's episode. I have a guy by the name of Terrell Jermaine Starr on, who is he's an American, African American guy who travels this region and runs a kind of he's got a Substack and all the rest of it. He's a journalist, former former what is it? The JFK program that aids. Oh darn it! Come on. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. The program JFK started, where you go around the world and help
The Peace Corps, or the
young people. Peace Corps.
Yeah.
There, he was an old.
Yeah,
he was a Peace Corps guy from right after the Soviet Union. The Peace Corps sent a bunch of young guys into former Soviet areas. I know one guy that was in the Baltics, and then Terrell was down in Georgia. And we talk about it. We talk about this, the racism that exists in Russia against these communities, both people from the Caucasus and from Central Asia. So it shouldn't be a surprise that we start to see this, these kind of attacks on Russia, because the Russians are pretty shitty to those people. So I'm not surprised by Marshall.
Dagestan was one of the places where we saw the first stories about roundups of people being forced to fight. That they went to Dagestan and were snatching up young men, and the women of Dagestan were complaining. This was in 2022. That this is one of the biggest stories. That was one of their primary sources, and it may have been even in relation to that sheep idea. That they, the Dagestanis were, holdouts. They weren't willing to fight in this situation, and they had to be kind of forcibly conscripted to do so. That's not.
There's a lot less political fallout. Yeah, there's a lot less political fallout for grabbing a bunch of people from the Caucasus or from Siberia or from the Far East than it is to be grabbing people from Petersburg. Or even Ekaterinburg or Moscow. So look, the whole thing is starting to fall apart. The whole the center cannot hold. Putin is in real trouble, and we can expect more splinter groups and insurgencies and people who don't want to live under Moscow's thumb starting to express themselves.
Start to buckle under the pressure.
This is not going to be the last attack.
No. Yeah, they're starting to buckle under the pressure of having to acquiesce to this stuff and give their blood treasure to this idiot when he has no apparent plan. Now, I think there's a piece of side, I don't know if it's good news, but it certainly is par for the course these days in terms of how Russia is doing. This is from a Newsweek story. It says Putin complains that no one will help Russia. He gave an address the other day where he said they were published on Telegram by State TV, but he talked about the need for a stable economy in Russia, which they don't have, to support its Ministry of Defense. So he's basically making stop drinking and go to work is another. It's another one of those speeches, but. He goes, everybody counts. They count the salary. They count the new equipment. They place orders. It's very important. This is a base, which means everybody's just kind of just pretend your normal job works and just go there anyways. And then he goes, in this sense, we can only rely on ourselves. No one will come and give us anything with an outstretched hand. Everyone will do it themselves. We can do it, which is, as isolationist, or at least as him just recognizing how isolationist they, I'm not even isolation, how cut off they are from everybody else, that they are being isolated by the world. And it's weird that he said this right after he signs this cooperation deal with North Korea, and supposedly has this great, we're just going to switch our foreign currencies to the yuan, everything's going to be fine, and that absolutely, made butt soup in the bed, and. But we can only rely on ourselves is the message from him.
Yeah, the genius of Vladimir Putin. The man is. He's never been actually the sharpest tool in the shed, despite what everybody kind of thinks.
He's just willing to kill people.
He's a kind of.
You could cut to the front. That's the Gordian knot story.
If every nail, if every problem is a nail, Putin is a hammer, but he can't handle anything more significant or subtle or sophisticated than just crush it. Whatever it is, destroy it and crush it.
Right.
If it gets in our way, destroy it. I mean, that's why. I mean, already his trip to Pyongyang is backfiring because the South Koreans have been like, "Oh, you're going to do what now?" You know,
Hmm.
I mean, even if the North Koreans, and now I guess the North Koreans are talking about actually sending troops here, and it's like, well, I mean, that's okay. It's not going to help much either because the
Right.
tactics aren't going to change, and the Russians are going to use them even worse than they do their own people. So,
Yeah, they'll use them to
the whole
salvage
thing
their
is
own people, the same way they've been doing with
falling apart.
Africans and
Yeah,
and everybody else. Right.
yeah. Well, already, even when I used to live back in Moscow over 20 years ago, we would hear there. I mean, it was an open secret that Pyongyang would load up trainloads of workers and send them across to work in Siberia as slave labor, literally slave labor.
Yeah.
They wouldn't get paid. They would just be that was Pyongyang's tribute to Moscow. So
Wow.
imagine what they're going to do to them in a war.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And
messed
they'll
up. It's real messed up.
and North Korea knows this. If you have anybody who's a problem, you just send them to get killed. Yeah, put this guy in the cannon fodder
Right.
line. Make sure he doesn't come back. Because that's and again, that's why Trump confuses expedience with like quality, with
Yeah.
intelligence or strength. If you could just, it's like everything to him is the Indiana Jones sword gun scene. That it's always all that simple. If the guy's sitting
Yeah.
there spinning his sword, just shoot him and walk away. And on a 1-to-1, you could argue that might work. But when you talk about the politics and the international relations of millions and billions of people, there are no solutions like that are going to work. As a matter of fact, they're all going to backfire because your aversion to complexity is going to make you miss all the areas where they can con you. It's effectively what happened with both. That's what happened,
Yeah.
and the same thing's true of Putin. The Chinese have backed him into a corner, and they're not. Xi Jinping's not that smart either. He's got some smart guys working in the top, elements of the CCP, but he didn't listen to them.
And Putin walked into it. And
Yes.
Putin also walked into it. I mean, he didn't.
It's
He
bizarre.
he could have written instructions down for Xi. Yeah. Well, they're not. Autocracy is not smart. Autocracy is not delicate or sophisticated or intricate or nuanced or any of these things. It is. That's why it sucks to live under one, because it is just simply, I have a bigger barrel, I have a bigger gun than you, I have a bigger club than you, and I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want. And that's about as sophisticated as it gets.
Which, obviously,
they can window dress it. They can, but it's still the same.
It seems very macho for a short period of time, anyways, and that seems to be the appeal with the people who have the mentality of Don Jr., for example. Crimea. So one of the things I want to talk to you about is this footage that came out of ATACMS were being fired at probably the Kerch Bridge, but maybe at Sevastopol or some other military spot, and the missile defense in Crimea shot it down, but the pieces of the missile, fell all over the beach and all this stuff because they don't care how and where they're going to shoot these things down. They just do it, and they don't warn anybody. It was just like, like there was, I believe, a 7-year-old child that was killed by the shrapnel because of where they shot it down.
Well, they tried to say it was cluster munitions. That the footage.
It's ridiculous.
I'm not I'm not as sophisticated a military scientist. You'd really need somebody to but that sure didn't look like cluster ammunition to me. That looked like a bunch of debris.
Well, they showed pieces of the missiles afterwards. They know exactly what kind of missile it was.
Afterwards they showed them. Yeah, it was a TOX. TOC.
Yeah. It was
anyhow.
not a cluster bomb. It was
No. Yeah. But it's also in Crimea, so everything can be manufactured. It's
right.
It's part of the information war now. I mean, we have Zakharova out there cynically spinning the deaths of these Russians on the beaches, like, how dare you killed our children, sort of thing.
Right. When
But
they did, because they could
you
have shot it
targeted and
down.
killed our children. No, that's not what happened.
Right.
What happened was, yeah. And by the way, I hasten to add, that's like a Tuesday for us.
Yeah.
So we get that every day from you. Every
Right.
single day, you shoot missiles at us. And yes, we shoot them out of the sky. And yes, debris comes down on our buildings. But you know whose fault it is? It's the guy who started this conflict. So yeah, Ukraine was shooting ATACMS into Crimea to hit some sort of target. You shot those missiles down. The debris came down and killed your own citizens. It's a tragedy. It's nobody likes to see civilian deaths. That's not
Right.
what this is about. But, it's hard for me to find a lot of compassion when it's happening here every single day. And by the way, it doesn't have to happen here in mainland Ukraine, and it doesn't have to happen in Crimea. If you guys just go the fuck home. How about that?
Yeah. It's amazing how this could all be over if they just left. Yeah, dear Russia, FO.
Just walk away. It's you're the ones. You're the ones that are continuing this conflict, and you're the ones who started this conflict,
Agreed.
So, I mean, it's ugly. It's sad. I mean, that would be horrific if I was on the beach and that, metal started hailing down out of the sky. Yeah, it's awful. But
yeah,
the responsibility is with the guy in the Kremlin. It's not the Ukrainians
Yeah.
who shot those missiles into Crimea.
agreed. But the
Full
idea
stop.
is that they're getting closer and closer to, I believe, taking out the Kerch Bridge with a barrage.
Yes.
It seems like
Well, we're
that.
getting there.
It seems we're getting closer. Like they've got to hit a certain number of sites to guarantee the biggest amount of things get through. And so they're strategically picking those things off. And then once those things are down and in mid-repair or whatever,
It's air defense.
or being moved, then hit the bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's most. I mean, look at what the Ukrainians have been hitting. They have been concentrating on command and control, logistics, and air defense. All the sectors of the Russian military that would be needed to defend themselves against some sort of massive air attack, whether it's missiles or the F-16s. That bridge is going to come down. The train line, which goes from Rostov all the way down along the shore of the Sea of Azov to support Crimea by way of a land bridge, that's come under fire already. It will be intensified, and we're getting real. I have what are we, the 26th? Yeah, we're getting real close to something. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but it's going to be undeniable.
Right.
It'll be large. The F-16s are already here. They're here. They're either physically in Ukraine or they're right across the border. The pilots are here. The infrastructure's here. The ATACMS are here. The HIMARS are here. They're going to take it to Crimea very, very soon. And then, of course, also, you've got the autonomous drones in the Black Sea. They'll be, I think they're keeping their powder dry for something big, like one big push.
Yep.
That will
And that's
shock the hell out of the Russians.
Right. And then the bridge has just got to be gone completely. So they've got to, the idea is that they were, at one point it seemed like they were allowing part of the bridge to stay in existence so that people could evacuate. You could get the Russians that are in Crimea and other places out. And now it seems like, screw it, let Russia send boats. Because that's what they would have to do. Like they'd go, hey, we're going to create a safe zone for you guys, and you can take all your citizens out of here because they're here illegally, and they killed a bunch of people to get here, and they're killing people to stay here. Get out. So that would be Also,
which would then, of course, lead to the question of would the Russians let them leave? Because we've
they're
seen
great
this
cannon fodder,
in
and you could just let them.
instances where they've been like, yeah, that's right, and then you can make a propaganda thing out of it,
right? Which
they're
again,
killing our civilians in Crimea, which will give us an excuse to
do worse. Well, I mean, it's like I'd say it was a page out of the Hamas book, but I got to say they kind of learned it from Russia as well. because you have people who were,
We saw it in
never mind the
Mariupol.
fact. Yeah.
Yeah, we saw it at the very beginning of the war. We saw it in Mariupol. They wouldn't let the people of Mariupol leave because, they wanted them for a variety of reasons. They wanted, they're caught inside. So,
right.
Yeah, it's cynical and cruel, but it's what they do. So,
right.
But I think you're right. I do think you're right. I think that they will. I think things are going to get really intense in July. I think July is going to. It may go as late as August. I'd be stunned if it goes as late. I think it's going to happen. I wouldn't be terribly surprised, if it's imminent, any second now, sort of thing.
Right.
They've clearly been planning for something. The Ukrainians have when it comes to taking out Russian air defense and things like that. They've been prepping for this for quite some time, and I can't believe that they have a lot more to do. So that only means when do they pull the trigger,
right?
Figuratively and literally, on whatever operation they have, because it's going to be a big one. It's going to be a big one, and it won't be like this what everybody calls the failed counteroffensive, because this will be an air war thing. This will the whole point of so much of this is going to be to secure air dominance, and then once you have air dominance, it's NATO Tactics 101. They got the Bradleys, they got the armor, they got the artillery. We'll see. I don't know yet, and war's tricky, so
Well, there's also
get ahead of ourselves,
like
but
the Russians just got pushed back out of Vovchansk. I think that's how you pronounce it. Vovchansk, which was which was a huge move, and it seems like that is precisely what it seems like they are stationing things for a big ta-da. And the Russians don't seem to have anything other than men to throw at it.
Yeah, typically. And we've got a new NATO Secretary General today. It looks like it doesn't look. It is going to be Mark Rutte. And Rutte, Stoltenberg was at the head of NATO at a time when the most important thing for NATO to do was to stick together. Right. Rutte is a much more aggressive guy. He is a much more take it to the Russians. Yeah. And I think that's part of the reason why he was chosen as the new Secretary General. Right. The worm is turning. And I don't, unless Trump gets in, which you and I both are of the mind that ain't going to happen, and I'm pretty adamant about it. Yeah. As we see him continue to deteriorate. Yeah. Short of that, thing happening, the West is staying resolved in their standing up against Russia, and the longer this goes on, the worse for them. They're going to continue to be sanctioned. They're going to continue to be a pariah state. They won't be able to replenish their armed forces. Their economy is going to be, absolutely a mess. Continue to be absolutely a mess. And as sloppy as democracies are, once they get
for
rolling,
20 years,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I wanted to play this. This is, if I could. This is voice. It's who you think it is. This is audio of Trump on what was called the All In podcast with these 4 billionaires who were trying to spoon feed him talking points to get on page. And this is where he blamed NATO expansion.
So for 20 years, I heard that NATO, if Ukraine goes into NATO, it's a real problem for Russia. I've heard that for a long time. And I think that's really why this war started. I'm not sure that this war would have started. Biden, so for 20...
I mean, he talks... I gotta say, it's like Pat Robertson at the end with none of the awareness of policy that even Pat Robertson had. No, like Pat Robertson by the end of his life,
and we also
saw was a gibbering idiot.
Oh yeah, but we saw Nigel Farage in Britain saying this kind of stuff as well. People who say this just have no idea about what this conflict is about. This is
Mhm.
this is they don't, and they also don't take it further to like, well, why is losing Ukraine an existential threat to Russia? Well, what
Right.
does that mean about Moscow? That
Mhm.
Moscow needs to have a colony, otherwise it is at risk of collapse.
Right.
Because unless they have the cornerstone of their empire, um, and which is about finance, it's about colonization as a identity, it's about entrance into the European, into Europe. It is not so as these kind of guys, the Farages and I don't give Trump enough credit, but the people who are telling Trump this kind of stuff, I don't give them enough credit to actually understand the nuance of this. But when they say, Russia only cares about Ukraine because who would want to have NATO weapons on their doorstep? That's bullshit.
Yeah.
Because if that was the case, why are they not invading Finland? Finland
Exactly.
just join
Bigger
NATO.
border. Bigger border. Yep.
Bigger border.
Yep.
With
this goes
artillery.
Never mind that.
You can
How
have
about Trump's idiot
artillery within range
Right.
of St. Petersburg from Finland?
Right. Yeah. Never mind even that, but like Trump with his whole like, we're gonna have a big beautiful dome like no one's ever seen before. And like, okay, first of all, the dome isn't visible. The Iron Dome isn't visible, you dummy. But he's like, we're gonna have a dome like no one's ever seen before around this country. Well, guess what, dummy? That doesn't just mean you have to have missile defense, nuclear missile defense on like the East Coast and the West Coast. You have to station it in Europe and in Okinawa and Guam and in Taiwan and Australia, because if they're coming, you got to get them before they reach the atmosphere in a lot of cases for the faster ones to have any impact at all. So the dome has to extend halfway around the Earth when it comes to nuclear missiles. And he's going to make this big, beautiful dome. We have this big dome, and right, and then there is no version of things where you don't put that machinery in Finland. If there's no version of it where you don't put it in several other NATO countries, and there's no version where you don't put it in Ukraine because it's right there. I mean,
but I mean, in addition to that, you can have that capacity, and there are already anti-ballistic missile systems in Romania and Poland.
Right.
This isn't about Russia's defense. This is about Russia's sense of self as empire and the
dominance
strategic
and
importance for them
like
to
bullshit
and their
machismo.
dominance and their access to the Black Sea. Yeah, and their control of the Black Sea and their dreams of becoming a great naval power and their need for their need for a warm water port and all this other stuff. They just can't let Ukraine go because they don't know who they are if they aren't an empire. I mean, it really, in so many ways, is what. But of course, there's a whole myriad of other reasons for it. But this whole thing of like, oh, if we just hadn't, and also let's also not overlook the fact that as I love my turn of phrase, the West did not expand east. The East, the second they got free from Moscow's grip, went running west for a defensive alliance because they know who Moscow is. It's only a matter of time before Moscow was going to reestablish itself, dust itself off, get back up off its feet, and go, this is mine again now.
Right.
It's what they do throughout their entire history.
Well, and
so
again,
who
NATO expanded by
fuck this, we're out.
Yeah. NATO is a volunteer expansion. If you want to join, you can. You don't have to. Yep. And CSTO, which is the Russian version of it, is you're conscripted at the barrel of a gun. The countries are all but either forced to join, and the only ones that have made a break from it are those that become economically self-sufficient because they voluntarily join the European economy. So they don't need Russia anymore for that one source.
Yeah, the critics of that say, "Oh yeah, but the CIA or MI6 or NATO operatives took out the opposition in those different countries and they manipulated those countries into joining NATO." It's like, well, you clearly have never been to the Czech Republic, Poland, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. Give me the list. I'll go down it. I've been to a lot of these countries, and almost every single country I go to, overwhelmingly the attitude is like, "Fuck those Russians.
Yeah.
Fuck them.
Well,
we
and
don't
also,
have anything to do with them. They're
right.
assholes."
The
They
idea.
take everything. They take everything down, and they do this whole thing of like, you don't like it? I got a big club. Wham! Look at Prague, 1968. I mean, not go. It's
Well, it's like
it's my blood
here's
boiling.
what
It's
here's
like,
what I would argue.
go to those people. They hate
Financially, financially, philosophically, politically, it is the equivalent of you've got. I've got two things in my hand. You can have one or the other. On the one hand, you can have the European Union, which is represented by a credit card, a MasterCard that you can use to purchase anything you need. Goods and services, that kind of stuff. You can trade with it. There's anything you want to spread it around. And on the other hand, I have the old mobile fob that you used to be able to pay for gas with at mobile stations on your keychain. Remember that thing? And it only worked to buy gas and only at mobile stations. That's the difference. That is what these countries are choosing between when it's Russia or the rest of the world. And interestingly enough, Russia has a similar choice because they've made other people make that choice. But in China, because China has given them the mobile fob. That's what the yuan is. It only works for goods here. Nobody else wants to trade in the yuan because there is no trade in the yuan because you can't logically predict the worth of it. You can't say, oh, it's going to be worth, because jobs numbers are such, it will be worth more down the road. So I'm going to buy a bunch of it and sell it later, which is what, these currency trading people do. You can't do that with the yuan. It's useless for that because they wake up every morning. They have a guy who has a leeway of like 2 to 3 yuan against the dollar in either direction, which is an immeasurably large, number as far as what a currency is worth. That's a huge fluctuation, right? And he can flip a coin and go, all right, now it's worth 2 more yuan. It's 11 to the dollar today. What about yesterday or tomorrow? 9. Like, he can literally do that, which is absurd. Nobody's going to trade on that because they'll just cheat you.
And not to belabor the analogy too much, although I'm probably going to do just that, is there's the implicit violence of like, either you take my fob and deny the credit card, or I'm going to beat the shit. I'm going to follow you home.
Yes, I'm going to push you out a window.
And also, in addition to that, and also, by the way, every gallon of gas that you buy with the fob, I'm going to siphon off about 10% of that and give that to my, to my brother.
And I'm going to use all the money that I made. I'm going to use all the money that I made to buy weapons that I'm probably going to shoot you with later if you try to stop using my fob.
That too.
This is the same thing with a BRICS currency.
Who would want that?
Right. Well, that's I have heard so much.
It's astounding to me that people can't understand this.
Yeah, this BRICS nonsense.
This is not a hard decision to make.
No, same thing with BRICS every time. Like they're like, this is the day. It's finally the Saudis aren't gonna do the they're leaving Bretton Woods or whatever. They're not gonna they're leaving the petrodollar and the entire market, the currency market in the United States, the stock market, the bond market, all shrugged it off. They literally, the day it ended, if that had happened in '95. It would have crashed the stock market. But now, because of renewables, because of multiple sources, because of the amount of production in the United States, the amount of production in Canada, the shifting to natural gas as far as like buses and other stuff like that. So you're all using an alternate fuel for stuff. Renewables in and of itself, windmills, albeit they give pelicans cancer and chop them they make julienne fries out of them. Other than that, they do help replace a certain amount of oil. They shave off a little bit of it. So we don't care anymore. I think that's the news story.
Did you see last week's episode with Bill Browder?
Yes.
We talked about just that. We talked about just that. And it's like, no, BRICS is not coming to save you. You're screwed.
Yes, it is, and they
He
dive
was
into
good.
it a little
He was a
deeper.
good guest. He was
Yeah.
a very good guest.
Yeah, so please check it out. Please check out Philip Ittner's On the Edge podcast. It's at Philip Ittner on YouTube and at Ittner Philip on Shitter, and then wherever else. His name is in the right order. But that said, thanks for hopping
The
on. I
Brother
hope
one
you
was
get
good, I think.
yeah, I hope you get your power back. But I'm here to tell you, like, there is no negotiating with someone who has no qualms about cheating you and lets you know, like they're open about it. That if it's why Trump can't find any new
And
business partners.
Yeah. There you go. At a certain point, it's diminishing returns because everybody actually
Right.
knows what the deal is. And yeah, I mean, it sucks. This sucks, and
Yeah.
it sucks getting shot at in the middle of the night and air raid sirens, and it sucks seeing people walking on the street with that blank look in their eye, or guys
Right.
walking around missing limbs, or friends, just the mental strain.
Yeah.
It
It's
sucks.
rough.
But fuck you, Moscow. Fuck you.
Yeah.
No, we're not giving in. We're never going to give in. We're never
Right.
going to. And it's not going to happen. It's counterproductive. The people of Ukraine are going to continue to fight against Moscow's bullshit until they win. And our only question is, do we support them or not? And if we don't, are we really, really willing to sit by and watch a massacre and like genocide here? Because that's what the Russians want to do, is genocide.
Yeah.
So fuck it. We'll put up with it. It sucks. Not gonna lie, it's a strain. It sucks real bad. I can't wait. I can't wait to be done with this war. I never want to see another war in my life. But I'm sticking this one out until the end because it's that important. We gotta. This has to result in a free Ukraine with sovereignty and self-determination. Otherwise, the world is going to be in a really shitty place because Russia will export that bullshit as far as they can. As they can. I mean, Trump is the result of Moscow. We have Trump because of Moscow, and
that's
they'll keep
exactly right. Yeah.
So,
stop
them.
Yeah,
there.
appreciate you being with us
And
today,
stop
brother.
them at the ballot box.
That's right. Absolutely. It is yet another reason to recognize the value of ridding ourselves of this worrisome stain in terms of Trump. So thanks so much. Take care of yourself, and I will see you on Saturday. Yeah.
Yes, you will. Take care.
All right. Cheers, brother. All right. There we go. And there he went, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you guys for joining me this morning. I will not have an afternoon show today because I have flappers tonight. So forgive me that. Tomorrow, here's the plan. I am going to live tweet the debate, or live sheet the debate, whatever, and watch it because everybody else will be kind of watching it raw. I may put it up on stream in case you want to watch it there with the chat room, on the side. I think that's something I could do pretty easy if people like that idea. But at the very least, I won't be commenting like I normally do over top of it. Afterwards, though, I'm going to go back through the whole thing. I know a lot of people do the post show, and if you want to go watch Rachel and all them talk about it and they'll show you the highlight points, that's cool, and you can watch mine later. But right after it's done, I'm going to go through the whole thing line by line like I do. So after it's done, and so that'll kind of be on record, so you can watch it whenever you want. So if you miss the debate, or if you're doing something else, or you want to watch somebody else, that's totally cool. What I'm going to do is do my thing around the whole debate after. Okay? Just so, yes, Boston Brian is live streaming it, so you can watch it on his channel. Maybe we'll coordinate that. That'll be the thing. So watch it on Boston Brian's thing live, and he doesn't mind talking over people. And I'll do my version after. Yeah, and I am tired, and I'm going to go get some sleep because I finished at 1 o'clock last night. Yeah, I'm exhausted. So, and I've got a show tonight. So, bless you. I'm just glad I can talk. Ginger will be posting some of the videos from last night of the songs, and I got to say I was very proud. I think it turned out very well. Yeah, it was good stuff. So anyways, don't forget super chats, like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show. Thank you, Al, you look so tired. Go grab a coffee, get some rest. I will. How about this? How about I get some rest and then I'll grab a coffee afterwards? Yeah, because I am exhausted. So appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you guys later this afternoon. Bye. I think I have a closing window, don't I? Yeah. Hold on. Not quite done yet. Give me a second. Give me a second. I'm not done yet. Takes a minute. Oh, it's not working?